So why would you want to invest your money globally overseas with real estate?
Well, there's a lot of reasons, and we've been doing this for a long time. I started in 2003 in Costa Rica and then moved after the big crash of 2008 over to Panama. And there's a lot of reasons behind that. But the reason has always been driven by people wanting to become expats, have a plan B, and then, of course, diversifying your investments. And those are the three primary reasons.
Welcome to the Jennifer J. Hammond Podcast. Jennifer is a licensed realtor, educator, speaker, and best-selling author. Jennifer's goal is to help you find your yay in every day.
Hello. This is Jennifer J. Hammond. I'm so excited. We're going to talk about international real estate. Yes, I bet you've always wondered, should you be investing overseas? What about real estate investing overseas, global real estate investing, but specifically in Panama? So I have an amazing guest here today who has a lot of experience in this. And it's one of those things where you probably never thought about it, but I bet once you hear all about this, you are going to be more interested than ever to find out more. So welcome to the Jennifer J. Hammond Show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, Jennifer.
Well, and I want you to jump right in. So why would you want to invest your money globally overseas with real estate?
Well, there's a lot of reasons, and we've been doing this for a long time. I started in 2003 in Costa Rica and then moved after the big crash of 2008 over to Panama. And there's a lot of reasons behind that. But the reason has always been driven by people wanting to become expats, have a plan B, and then, of course, diversifying your investments. And those are the three primary reasons.
And so it's really interesting when you say Costa Rica, because I have friends that are down in Costa Rica and they love that area. So I am curious on why did you decide to move?
That was a very easy decision. It's about the bottom line. When the crash of 2008 happened, Costa Rica flat got wiped out, just totally wiped out. And Panama kept clicking along. And within a couple of years after the crash, Panama had a GDP of over 11%. And Costa Rica had not even yet come back. So the average GDP in Panama during and after that crash for the following 10 years was all the way up to over 11% and never lower than 5.5%. So it averaged about 6.5%, 7.5% over that period of time. It's all about the business and the bottom line.
Well, and that's so interesting because, again, that's something that a lot of times when people are looking at overseas, they just get so afraid. And there's that fear factor because they don't understand the economy. I mean, sometimes it's hard to understand the economy in the United States. So trying to understand it in a different country. I think that's something that's really valuable, is to know that, again, certain places, you should look at what happened in the last 10 years, 20 years, and kind of look at the past as well as what's the plan for the future. So Panama is much more business oriented than a vacation hub. Why? So can you explain a little bit more about that? Because I think we do hear more about the beaches and such in Costa Rica as a vacation spot, but why a business hub in Panama?
Well, you have that tourist opportunity in Panama, but it's not number one like it is in Costa Rica, where, because that was a tourism country, both in 2008 and again with the pandemic, you had a complete shutdown. And with Panama, that was not the case because you got the Panama Canal there. The world depends on the Panama Canal. And with that Panama Canal creates a filter down kind of a process with everything else that's required from, housing and construction and you name it. Everything else is contingent because of all of the business that's coming through from the Panama Canal. And now the Cobre copper mines, which is projected over the next 40 years to bring in more revenue than the Panama Canal. So because of those two things, you've got opportunities that you don't have in these tourism countries.
Well, and I think it's really important to see that there are very specific but very stable businesses that make the economy so, I want to say more reliable or very reliable in investing your money there, because I think that a lot of people are looking for, what do we do for retirement? What would be a good place for retirement? So let me jump a little bit around in the fact that I would be really curious to see, so what happened with COVID in 2020 with Panama?
Well, it was no different than anywhere else in the rest of the world. They did have their quarantines, they did have their shutdowns, they did have their spikes, but they continued to try to push, and they're a very open country. Of course, they're on the US dollar, so you got that US dollar currency thing, and they're a democracy, and so it's very similar to being in the United States as far as the culture and everything. You don't have to be able to speak Spanish to be there, but it continued to move forward. Of course, they had, like I said, they did have the quarantines and the shutdowns, but the country continued to thrive. The Panama Canal continued to operate. It had to. The world depends on the goods coming through the Panama Canal. So, of course, there was a pullback where so much manufacturing had stopped throughout the world, but it continued to thrive.
And that's really, I think it's one, that was another question I was going to ask you that I think is very common is, do you have to speak Spanish to live there?
No comprende español. I do not speak Spanish. I do not speak Spanish. I can speak a few words that are real important for me, like tocino, which is bacon, and mantequilla, which is butter. So I can get the things that I need, but I do not. I cannot even put together a sentence structure with a Spanish sentence. I have been in Central America since 2003, and I've always had team members on my power team that were fluent in Spanish, that were from that country, and that was my crutch. And so I've never had to. But even going out without anybody that speaks Spanish, I can operate, get around, do what I need to do. I know the signs. I know how to, follow directions. GPS has made life really easy now. So no, you do not have to speak Spanish.
And I think that's a common thing. And I think probably the other most common is, other than it, looking for the businesses that are there, is just trying to understand what about crime? I think that's always something that people are always worried about in a country that they don't understand.
The crime in Panama has always been very well contained, and it's typically domestic, if you hear of anything, or petty. I run around that country by myself as a single person all the time. I feel safer there than I do in Atlanta, Georgia, which is where I'm from. And I've never, ever had any threats, any fears at all in Panama. I mean, I'm out about at nighttime and weekends and by myself, and just never had a problem.
Well, and I think that's also, it's just such a common question that they've got on their mind. But also, let's talk about, again, let's go back to money. Money. So I know I want to talk about the tax breaks, but let's leave that as a little bit of a tease. I want people to understand a little bit about you. So you used to be one of the advanced trainers for Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You're a real estate educator. You're an investor yourself. You have My Panama Vacation Realty founder. You have just an amazing resumes of all sorts of things. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey in real estate, because it's a beautiful one, because you're an educator and a trainer. I think we're a very special breed, because it's really a passion usually if you want to train and help other people understand it, right?
Absolutely. And so many people think that I'm a realtor or a real estate agent. I'm not. I have never been a realtor. I have never represented somebody as going to buy their home. What I do is I help people find investments, and many times they use them for a home, a second home, a vacation home, a retirement home. But these are clients that come back to me time and time again. They invest with me over and over. They're looking for investments where they can get in, get out, and do it again. And so they become my partners in reality. I am an educator, and that's where my passion lies. It's always been there. I've always loved teaching. And I was supposed to go into the legal field when I graduated from college, and I got pregnant with my first child and was extremely sick, could not go to college, onto law school. And I ended up by default in real estate. That's how I went into real estate in corporate America. I was there for 4 years, left corporate America, went out on my own, and I've never looked back since.
I smile because I also was planning to go to law school, and there was a variety of different things that happened anyway. And then I ended up in real estate, and I am so glad that life took there was some forks in the road, and that life took some unusual turns. And I'm sure you do too, because I think real estate is the best in the world as far as businesses and helping people, but also being able to really educate people and create wealth, which I think is something that is so valuable, is to really treat people and to understand that you're really changing people's lives in a profound way when you teach them about real estate.
That's true. And I love it. I mean, I'm passionate about it and people can see that. I get so excited every day about the opportunities of helping somebody else change their life, create a new portfolio, add something to what they've already got, to diversify when they're too much in all eggs in one basket, you know, that kind of stuff. And every day is a new day. It's a different day. There's never a duplicate of the previous day. And that's why I love what I do so much.
Well, and so let's go back to the question I teased before about taxes. So and again, I'll kind of bundle this together with what are the requirements for someone who's an American who's coming down to Panama to buy, how long do they have to live there? Can they live in the United States? And what are the tax benefits?
That's a very easy answer. There are no requirements.
Yay!
If you can send a copy of your passport and sign a contract in the United States, you can purchase the property.
Wow.
Prior to, the last 6-7 years, you could purchase a property sight unseen without even having a passport. Now you have to have a passport. But I have clients that have purchased properties that have never owned a passport in their life that got in before that change. And they never intend to go to Panama. They're just invested there to diversify internationally, to be able to get in, get out, and do it again. But now I have clients purchase sight unseen every single week, all the time. We have people purchasing that have never even been to Panama. They're looking to diversify, get their funds out of their home country, and it's not just the United States or Canada or North America. It's all around the world. We have clients in South Africa and Australia and Israel, you name it, all over the world, Germany. And these are people that are looking for ways to be able to protect what they've worked so hard from. And now people are more frantic than ever because of what's happened with COVID and all of the governments around the world just pouring money, and know that money is going to ultimately have to come from somewhere. So they're concerned that they need to get those assets out of their home country somewhere else where they're protected and where they're safe.
Yeah. And I think, you said there's tax benefits. So do you have property tax, and then do you pay an income tax on the money that you make on your investment property, or how does it work?
Okay, there's a myriad of answers to all those questions. And I can tell you that there's great responses and great opportunities as far as the tax benefits. For example, you can have up to $300,000 a year in agricultural income and not have to pay any taxes in Panama. But here's the bottom line. As an American, you owe the IRS what you owe. Whatever tax bracket you're in, whether you earn it in Belize or Colombia or Panama, you still have to pay the IRS, but you're not going to have to pay double taxation. There are benefits, there are perks. There's all kinds of international companies from around the world: Under Armour, Johnson & Johnson, Exxon, Elizabeth Arden, Estee Lauder. I can just go on and on and on, that have come into Panama because of the perks and the benefits that these companies get by bringing their regional, national, or international offices and operations to Panama. So we have that happening on an ongoing basis. Now, I do need to make a disclaimer. I'm not a financial planner. I'm not a CPA, cannot give tax advice, but I can share the benefits of the things that I'm aware of, that I get to take advantage of, and our clients do as well.
Well, and I'm also curious about whether there are amazing off-market deals. I mean, that's one thing people are always looking for is, the deal. And how do you find them?
Well, that's very hard to go into any country and find those. But with us, we've been there for 12 years. I mean, since 2012. And I have created relationships with many of the different top developers that have been in business for many years, typically over 30 years. And those are some of the biggest, most renowned, best developers in Panama because of the amount of business that we bring to the table. Whenever they have these one-off deals, they'll come to me and they'll say, okay, we've got 1 of these, 2 of these, 6 of these. And when they're gone, they're gone. And they'll bring them to me because they know within 24 hours, I will have moved those properties. For example, like right now, I have one that's an oceanfront property. It's $165,000 right on the ocean in Gorgona. It's a resale from a radiologist, from a doctor. She just wants out after COVID. She quit, she's not practicing anymore. They just want to stay at their home in the States and not travel anymore. And she's like, I don't care. And she's taken about a $50,000 hit on this thing just to get out of it because she just wants out. And that's fine. I mean, I'll be turn around. I mean, we just got that one on the market. So I get these kind of deals and opportunities all the time. When I put that one out there, it'll be gone, So I have so many opportunities. And with my developers, I will also say, look, you've got this particular scenario right here. And I know you don't need me to market it for you, but you're going to give me a little piece of that pie for my investor clients because of the amount of business I bring to you in all these high-rise, top-end, high-end type of properties. And they do. And so I have opportunities with these developers that nobody else has.
I think so much about, as you know, in real estate is all about those relationships. It's so, so valuable that you have those relationships. And one of the principles I know you teach, as well as I have taught for many years, is, you make money when you buy a property. And will you talk a little bit more about why that's so important to be making money? I'll use my air quotes, making money when you buy it versus just when you sell it.
Well, my quote has always been, the money's made in the buy, not the sell. And the reason that is, and people need to understand this, most novice, untrained real estate investors that are venturing into this think that they're going to buy this property at today's FMV, fair market value, and they're going to hold it for 10 years or 15 years, and it's going to double in price. Well, that may be the case, but you have no control over that. You have absolutely no control over the market conditions. What you need to do is know when you're walking into a purchase of a property that you have existing opportunity to make cash flow. You've got existing equity, or you've got the ability to force the appreciation because you can take it, enhance it, and you've just increased the value of the property at least $1, if not $2 or $3 for every dollar that you spend. That's called forced appreciation. And so I'm looking for 2 of those 3 at least. And if you notice, I didn't even talk about market appreciation because I have 0 control over that. And if I have no control, then I have no say over what I'm going to be able to make in that project.
Yeah. And I think it's so important that people understand that, is that you need to understand the market and not just hope and, that somehow the market is going to be perfect and ideal for you in the future, because so often people make that mistake. And again, I want to say, because they've been watching some TV shows that might not be realistic, that are supposedly, reality TV. And it just breaks my heart sometimes when I hear some of the mistakes that people have made. So one of the other things is an affordable Plan B home opportunities. There are a lot of investors that are looking for a Plan B property. Again, I mentioned earlier, for retirement, but also for a vacation home. And it is one of those things where people are trying to figure it out. You said it's not really as focused on a vacation spot, but it's still extraordinarily gorgeous, right?
Absolutely. There's some just gorgeous places. I mean, majestic are the views. I live right on the Panama Canal on the Pacific. And I've got 2 properties. I've got another one in Gorgona down in the Coronado area. And both of them are direct oceanfront, just magnificent views and beautiful. That you got what's referred to the Black Diamond beaches. Very unique from what we see here in the United States, but it's just gorgeous. And so you do have those opportunities, and the prices compared to what's going on in the United States is significantly less cost per square foot than what you're going to see in California and Florida and New York and, places like that, Montreal and Ontario, Canada, et cetera. So, I mean, now is the time. And you can also turn that into a business generation income as well. So you want to look and understand your strategies. And that's what's so important when you're looking at these types of investments.
And so you can do like Airbnb or short-term rentals there?
And some places you can, and you have to know going into it, a lot of people are buying for their own personal retirement, let's say in 2 years or 3 years, and they don't want short-term rentals, but they do want somebody renting it. So they're looking for more of a long-term rental. And there are areas of the country that you can do short-term, and there's areas of the country that you can do only long-term, which is a 45-day lease or longer. That's considered long-term in Panama. But then there's all kinds of different strategies that you can implement. You can use corporate housing, you can use medical housing, there's just so many different strategies that you can implement. But yes, you've got both opportunities. Now, you may be in an area that does allow short-term rentals, but the building doesn't allow it. So
Right.
you've got to make sure you've got all those bases covered.
Yeah, and that's the same way, whether you're in Florida or California, you need to also, there's homeowner associations, condo associations, but then there's, of course, a city, a county, in Washington, D.C. versus New York. It's very different what you're allowed to do or not allowed to do. And as you just defined, I think is so powerful, making sure you understand what short-term means. Does that mean, and like in Florida, there's the ones that are under 7 days, there's that short term, and there's zoning for that, as well as, or there's ones that are, you can rent, but only by the week. So you can't rent for a couple of days, but you can rent for a week at a time. And then there are ones that are like, they require a 6 month to be there, but that's still considered short term. So understanding, as you just said, not only what is allowed by zoning and by the government, but also if you have a condo or an HOA, and understanding what can be done. So I am also curious, can you get a mortgage down there, or is it only if you're bringing cash?
There's a third option there. So you can get a mortgage, but it's like jumping through hoops. And you have to give them, your blood and your firstborn. It's about a 6-month process. But you can, and especially if you've owned a property there for at least a year or longer, then getting a mortgage is a lot simpler. But if you're an international and you've never had a loan and you've never had a bank account in the country, it's a more complex. It's a 6-month process. But you can bring cash. Of course, a lot of our buyers do. But then you have, with our program, with our investor program, the only developers that I will work with are developers that's willing to offer a developer financing program, so that you can get into a deal with either 10%, 20%, or 30% down.
Wow.
And the developer will carry financing for you. No qualification, and they're fully non-recourse loans. So it's a win-win every way that you can imagine.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's really, really unique. I mean, that's not on so many levels. I won't even get into the details of it. But before I forget, the one thing I wanted to talk about before we wrap up is the agricultural. There's some very special programs down there for agricultural investments, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. As you know, the population growth is growing crazy. They're projecting by 2050 that the population is going to be over 9 billion. And the food supply is becoming more and more of a concern around the world. And so if you have arable land and you can produce food, you're sitting on a gold mine. And so there are agricultural opportunities to be able to get involved with all kinds of different things, everything from fruits and vegetables to greenhouses to coffee, you name it. And there's opportunities to see really solid long-term returns. Now, this is not something you're going to get in and get out of in 6 months or 12 months or 2 years. You're looking at a long-term investment, maybe a legacy investment, but you do typically are capable of seeing a break-even situation within 7 to 8 years. But then you see opportunities to make a return of 25, 35, 40% per year as the produce becomes more mature. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I could sit here and talk about agriculture for days because the opportunities are so incredible. But if you know anything about what's going on in the world, arable land is a huge, huge asset that people are clamoring for right now.
Well, Evie Brooks, it's such a pleasure to get to know you and to hear all about Panama. I think we all really are interested in, well, one, I think most people want to travel, even though they might not be traveling yet, but also understanding what a great opportunity Panama could potentially be, but to know somebody like you. So make sure, will you go ahead and give your information? If people wanted to get a hold of you, how would they do that?
Well, there's a number of different ways. I have a website, you mentioned it, mypanamavacationrealty.com, mypanamavacationrealty.com. Also, Evie Brooks Panama. And that was just a short intro kind of thing, but you can, there's a place that you can put your information in and we'll contact you. Also, my phone number is 404-408-4445. And I do talk to people personally on my personal cell phone. That is my phone on a regular basis. And I do consulting and mentoring with people that are looking to diversify or expand or learn or invest internationally. So those are how the means.